openness and access. Taiwan is a reliable partner, a vibrant democracy, and a force for good in the world. The United States remains committed to supporting Taiwan as it seeks to expand its already significant contributions to addressing global challenges. The United States will continue to support Taiwan as it resists efforts to constrain its appropriate participation on the world stage, including in international organizations.
Let's bring in Victor Teo, who is a political scientist, and he joins me now live from Singapore. It's good to see you again, Victor. Now, we have Oudkirk here reiterating Biden's remarks that he made a couple of weeks ago, actually, on the U.S. defending Taiwan. But if push comes to shove, will the U.S. intervene militarily and help Taiwan defend itself against China?
Well, so far the statements that have been coming out from the United States is that yes, the American military will intervene on behalf of Taiwan if the Chinese attempt reunification by force. Now, having said that, we have to understand that the U.S. has an alliance network in East and Southeast Asia, and it is vital that the United States government gives out signals and assurances all the time to her allies in Asia. So, but having said that, the U.S. actually has the law, that is the Taiwan Relations Act, passed in 1979, that commits the Americans to help Taiwan in the event that China attempts reunification by force. But the Americans have always maintained a policy of strategic ambiguity. This means that it's not exactly very clear if and how the U.S. will intervene in a military sense. So the wording of the Taiwan Relations Act is actually quite general. But every so often, the Americans will come out saying that they are required by law to defend Taiwan. So everybody is asking in Asia, how do you, in the event of Taiwan, what would constitute an attack, really? Who defines what an attack looks like? There's also the question of provocation, because the wording only requires the Americans to intervene militarily if it's done by the Chinese, if the reunification is done by the Chinese through force. Right. Now, it's ambiguous because the Americans also want to keep the independent forces on Taiwan in check. Mm-hmm. So what the Americans are saying that is, if you announce independence and you get attacked, we might not actually help you.
Okay, so do you see China's recent increase in military exercises in Taiwan's air defense identification zone as a threat, despite President Xi Jinping saying, let's have a peaceful reunification?
Well, there are two ways to interpret this. I mean, if you look at historically what's happening, you might say, well, this growing Chinese incursions into Taiwanese water is a sign of increased Chinese assertiveness. That's actually true, because China has actually not done so many naval and area sorties. But having said that, if you look at the requirements of international law, China is required by international law to show control over the territory that it claims, that it's theirs. So this increased incursion might be a way for the Chinese to demonstrate that. Having said that, the second important thing that we have to recognize is that this sort of area sorties is also a Chinese response, if you like, also a signal to the United States increased exercises in the Indo-Pacific region. So. Right. But we have to contextualize this against the historical evolvement of U.S.-China relations. And in October this year, Chinese President Xi and U.S. President Biden has actually agreed that they will abide by the Taiwan Agreement. So this, I think, is just a series of posturing against his longer-term U.S.-China relations.
All right. Now, Victor, just last but not least, you mentioned the relationship between the U.S. and China, and it's clear to say that it's always been a tense relationship, and this situation seems to be fuel to the fire. I mean, No side is backing down or showing some sort of understanding to each other. Can we see tensions between the two world powers escalate from this point on?
For sure, because the United States have identified China as the principal strategic competitor in the foreseeable future. And so is gearing up, is withdrawing herself from the entanglements in the Middle East, from Afghanistan, and if you like, refocusing her efforts on the Indo-Pacific region. And China is bracing herself for greater competition with the United States too. So there is definitely going to be an escalation in tensions. It's not going to be the kind of U.S.-China relations we are seeing in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, where they are both, they are partners particularly in the case where they came together to confront the Soviet Union.
Right. All right, Victor Teo, it's always a pleasure having you here on the NewsHour. Thank you so much for that analysis.